Rose pruning like a pro. G'day viewers, it's Jeff McLeese Gardening, Melbourne, Australia. Today's video is about pruning roses, the easy way. A lot of people are frightened to touch roses because they think they're going to kill them. Very hard to kill a rose. On the farm we had goats and they used to eat the roses to the ground and they came back year after year after year. How many times you see beautiful rose displays in gardens and people haven't even touched the roses for years. The amount of roses I've rescued over the years from gardens that have never been touched, yet they're still blooming. So with a little bit of care and knowing some basic rules, it's not that hard to prune roses. The secret to rose pruning is to have good equipment. To start off with secateurs. If you can afford it, buy the very best secateurs you can. Because having a nice set of secateurs, I use Falco's number 2. If you use a good set of secateurs, it is easy to prune. You get nice sharp cuts consistently. Keep the pruners clean and keep them sharp. A little sharpening on a sharpening stone, whether you've got a Dremel drill, but keep them sharp at all times. Within the property, I don't disinfect between plant to plant because normally there's no diseases because I treat them. But if I go to another property, from property to property that I service, I'm always disinfecting all my tools when I touch different roses. Normally use a methylated spirits, just dip them in, dry them off, and it kills any of diseases that you want to transfer from one property to another property. So Falco number 2. Some people go for the automatic battery type pruners. This is a cheap set. You can pay up to $700-800 for really ones that really click. Very safe. If you touch the blades, they won't work, so you can't cut your finger off. Very slow for me, but the newer ones are so quick. And if you're doing hundreds of roses, I could probably see some benefit. Pretty old-fashioned though. I'll still go that because I got that. It's that feel that when you're cutting and just sort of manoeuvring myself, I still like that. Make sure you have a nice set of larger pruners for the bigger canes. I just use some Fiscus type ones. There's different, or Wolf, there's different types. But I forgot to mention, always use a bypass, which means it's bypass, because it actually gives a clean cut. The secateurs or big pruners that have got the, what they call, it comes to a flush, when the blade comes to a flush, it actually crushes it. It's not as effective as a bypass. So bypass pruners, bypass cutters. You may find you might need a little saw for the larger vines again. And for carpet rose, I'll explain, we use the shears. Very important to have long sleeves and gloves. It is so critical to wear eye protection. I've seen a few gardeners over the years that have scratched the cornea, like the lens of their eye, and in all sorts of trouble because those thorns, they'll catch you. And to have glasses on, you know, you can have a cut face, but to have a cut eye, it is so important to have glasses. Plus, I'm blind as a bat. I've got prescription glasses, so I have to wear them anyway because I'm blind as a bat. All right, viewers, we'll go and explain what we're going to do. Rose pruning is done at various times of the year. Now, in my region, Melbourne, Australia, we're Bayside, we don't have severe frost. So the major winter pruning, which is our major pruning of roses, is done any time from the start of June right through till August. I normally start at the end of May, early June, because I've got so many roses to do, but we find that gets us through. Now, some of my properties that may be in the hills, which are up towards higher country, which have sustained a lot of severe frost, will leave the pruning till the end of winter, probably the start of end of July, early August in Australia. Now, obviously, different countries in England, whatever, where you've got freezing conditions, your conditions of pruning will be a lot different to ours. If you're unsure, check with your local gardener or check with your local nurseries to find out the best time to do the pruning. But in our area, it's now, which is June. King's Weekend, we call it. We've got our King's Weekend this weekend. The other times of pruning, of course, is deadheading pruning. So every time we finish a flush of roses, we prune back, dehead them, take a few inches off them, or maybe a bit more, and then we feed them up for the next flush. And normally 50 odd days between taking the flush off to regrowth to a new flower. So that's the general rule in my area. 55 days you'll get a new flower. In a normal garden, there's probably four major types of roses. Pruning roses is generally the same, but they do vary, and you just need basic rules because each one has a little bit different. So we have the standard rose, the bush rose, the carpet rose, and the climbing rose. I can go into all the other different types, but they're the four main roses that we use in our gardens and a lot of my customers' gardens. So we have the bush rose, which is grafted, normally grafted. It comes from the ground up. That's what we call the bush rose. You can see them here. That's what we call the bush rose. The next one is the standard rose. The standard rose is grafted from a stock. So you've got that virtually a rose on a stick. So that stick is a grafted, is a actual stock, and the rose itself is grafted onto this stock. So anything growing below that, it's all been cleaned off. It won't grow back, and this is why you've just got your new, that's your actual rose bush. It's important to know the difference that if you cut below that graft line, you haven't got a rose anymore. Different sizes of rose bush. This iceberg one, look at this fella, he's a beauty. He's 8 foot tall now. It's quite a few years old now. It's been through, it must be 10, 12, 15 years old, because we've changed properties twice and I've transplanted it twice. So that's the beauty of roses. So you can see it's lovely, lovely one. The other one, of course, is the carpet rose. Now the carpet rose, this is actually a standard carpet rose, quite effective, but you can have carpet roses on the ground. And the other one, of course, is the climbing rose, where you have the vines trained over the arbour and the laterals producing the flowers. Or you might just have a climbing rose. Eventually it'll go over our shed, and nice display. So the first example is going to be our bush rose. Do you like my seat? For us oldies that find it hard to get off the ground again, and my knees are worn out after all these years of gardening, and it's really great to have a seat. So every opportunity, I sit down. It makes it worthwhile. So anyway, we're going to look at our bush rose to start with. Now, bush roses are generally grafted onto a stock as well, and I'll go through that process in a minute. So first off, we put our eye protection on, of course, making sure we're wearing our gloves. How many times we forget to put all this stuff on and we end up with blood all over us? And I should have mentioned the other important aspect to have in your toolkit is a box of Band-Aids. I don't know how many Band-Aids I'll go through, but I'll go through a lot. Looking at our bush rose, it's very important to stand back and have a look at a couple of things that we need to do. The first thing is to cut out any deadwood, cut out any crossing vines that are crossing each other. And generally we want to have a vase, and we want to take between a half to 2/3 off the branch itself. And generally, as a general rule, it's not hard and fast, I like to have 4 or 5 main thick canes that are coming from the base. Get rid of all the spindly growth. So we'll go through that in a minute. I mentioned before, these are grafted, so sometimes you'll get sucker growth that comes below the graft line. They need to be all removed because that's a different type, that's a stock rose, not a very pretty thing. So, and it saps all the energy out, so make sure you clean out any of these suckers that you may see. I haven't got any to show you, but very important to do that. So what we're looking at, we're taking out, we want to keep the main vine, so probably 1, 2, 3. I want to balance, I'll probably have a more splitting one over here, 4, maybe 5. So these two here are going to rub together, and because they're all going into the centre, we want that vase, I want to keep the middle as free as I can, because that allows the air circulation and stops any crowding. So we'll take this here down at the bottom, and then we'll look at taking out anything out of the middle here, and any dead vines. Take them out as well. Again, we don't want it coming inside. Take out all the spindly ones that are no good for you. Now I'll probably keep that outside one and take this one out. First off, we've got many dead. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Probably take the spindly one out here. So we've got our vase shape. Now what we want to achieve is we want to take 2/3 off. We want to go to an outward growing bud, because then it'll shoot out, not in. So an outward bud. If the bud's not there, you'll see a line. I'll just take it. Just to re-emphasise the outward bud that you need to cut above. So you can see the bud here. Now if you can't find the bud, you'll see the joint, you'll see the line. So the future bud will come from that position. So that's where you need to cut. So cut it on an angle on the outward bud. You know, you can go 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch above it. Don't go too far away, because that will die back. So reasonably close, as I say, not too far away. And then just slant it on an angle and point it towards the outward bud. They say because it stops water sitting on it, but yeah. I don't really look. If you don't, it doesn't matter. But just make sure you just find that bud, whether it's evident there as it is there, or where you might see the line. Just cut above that. Go above that. Hope that explains it. So again, we've got an outside bud. I'm cutting it out. Again, we've got an outside bud. I don't know whether you can see that. Outside bud. And now I mentioned before, we haven't got a bud. We can see the bud line. There's the join. You'll see the little, just above that. Get rid of the spindly one. And again, there'll be an outside bud up here. So basically what you've got now, you've got a vase type shape, and you've opened up the middle. You've opened up the middle, and you allow the air to go through, and then everything will grow out. So quite a nice little rose. Standard roses, grafted onto a major stock. We don't want to cut below the graft line because we won't have a rose. Stake them well. Prune them exactly like a bush rose. Vase shape. Take off 2/3. Take out all the dead wood. Take anything that's crossing over, and that'll shape up well. I've done one over here. You can see this over here. We'll just take out 4 or 5 major things, similar to what we did to the bush rose. So just work yourself away and just try to get a shape going. If you're cleaning it out, this one's a fairly compact one. We nearly lost it a couple of years ago, but it's just starting to come back again now. All the leaf matter in here, make sure you clean all that out. I use a blower just to blow all that out, and then make sure, because that can infest diseases. So when you do your summertime pruning, we mentioned deadheading before. What we're doing is just deadheading the roses. For example, if this was summertime, we just go down a couple of nodes down here, so we'll get some new growth. How's this? We've got winter and we've still got some blooms coming on. Yes, I know. People say, oh, you should wait a bit, but I like to get mine cut early because I've got so many to do, and also is I've got plenty an early flush. All right, probably one of the hardest roses to understand is the climbing rose. Now, the climbing rose is more about bending and structuring the rose more than the pruning. So we're trying to shape it. So basically, they have vines, the leaders that we train to go around any object that we wish to. And from these, we get the laterals, and that's where our flowers come from. So if you're cutting your major vine, you're actually sacrificing flower. So decide on how many vines you want. In this case, I've probably got too many. I'm going to have to cut a few out. So I'm going to end up with probably 2 or 3 vines that are going over the arbor. And the same again with this one. I'll let it just go up to the top there. But the important thing is to remember when you look at the laterals, that's the one that's going to produce the flower. And you just take that down to 4 or 5 inches above the main cane itself. It's an awkward one, and it's very thorny, and it's a Band-Aid city, this one, but it is nice. It's a lovely thing to have as a climbing rose. So this one's on an arbor, so it's going to take a little bit of work, so I'll show you the results as we go along. So what our plan of attack is probably just to keep the strong vines. We'll get rid of one. We want to keep the ones that are pliable because we can actually bend them. And the more horizontal we have them, that's where we get our flowers. So you see the vertical parts, you very rarely get flowers off that. So if that was against the wall, the more you can make horizontal, see where it's horizontal, that's where you're going to get most of your flower from. Now don't be frightened to take out the big thick ones. Because there's plenty of the other stronger ones there that'll get you through. But don't be horrified to take out the thick ones, because the thick ones are harder to bend and manipulate. That's a decision you can make. But again, pretty tough and pretty hardy. But just remember the rules of the laterals coming off the main. See, you got the main leader. So you've got the lateral coming off the main leader, and that's what's going to produce the flower. As I mentioned before, that's your main leader of your climbing rose. These are your laterals that form off that. Now, I was a bit slack this summer. I should have kept pruning that back. But a hard prune, I just prune back to doesn't matter it's an inward, outward bud because they're going to go either way. Just cut them, probably 2, 3 inches, 4 inches above. Just cut them at the see the leaf node there? Do the same principle as a normal bush rose. So you just cut them back, so next year or the next season you'll see all the blooms come on, or next season, not next year. If, for example, that you might have cut the end or damaged the end, you can actually use one of these laterals as a leader. You can train that and let that keep growing, and it can continue on if you wish to. So sometimes you might accidentally cut your leader, so you can use a lateral and you can convert it into a leader, and see it's pliable, it can bend. So it's important thing is your vines is to cut the real thick, heavy ones out and keep the thin ones, because you can actually bend them and you can train them in any direction you like. The more horizontal your cane is, the better off your flower arrangement's going to be. The vertical ones take a bit of effort, but the more horizontal, the more flower you're going to get. So I've brought it back to two vines. I'm just shaping it around, just pruning off the little laterals. I should have the gloves on, shouldn't I? When you're doing camera work and trying to push buttons with gloves, it doesn't mix. So yes, we've got the 2 main vines there. Same here, 2 main vines. So it can be a bit scary. Some people think about the climbing roses, but they're pretty easy to use, pretty easy to prune, I mean. Like my camellias, they're all dropping seeds from my camellias. I've got thousands of them, so I'm going to be potting up though. We've had a really good display of our camellias this year, so yeah, it's just all self-seeded. We'll see how they go. The best rose, I reckon, to prune, and the easiest ones, is the carpet roses. Because all you do, Here's the pruners. Oh no, I'll cut me tomatoes. My wife's going to kill me. We had tomatoes. I'm in trouble now. I didn't see them there. Winter time and we got tomatoes. Hope she doesn't see. So yeah, we're just using the shears. Just cut them hard back. And that's all you do with the carpet raisers. And of course you'll just clean them up with your secateurs, cleaning out the dead head. Yeah, tomato plant. I hope she's not watching. I'm going to be in trouble. They were coming on so good, those tomatoes. I don't know whether they would have ripened, but they look. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Winter time I got tomatoes. Hope she's. I'll have to hide those. So yeah, wrapping up rose pruning. Look, it's a trial and error thing if you're new to the game, but have a go at it. It's easy. If you're a contractor and you're going out to do residential or commercial rose pruning, learn the basics, heaps of YouTubes on all of it, and it's just a matter of practice. When you're quoting to prune roses, how long you think it's going to take, double it, because there's so much mucking around with cutting out the dead bits and pieces, cutting it all up and putting it into bags and getting rid of it. It takes a lot longer than you think it does, rose pruning. And add on a bit of time for band-aids and all that sort of stuff. But seriously, it's well worth it. With the roses, it's very important to mulch. So I'm just using leaf mulch that I've gathered over the properties. Mulch all that down, and that's good compost. Keep the mulch away from the base of the rose so you don't get the colour rot. Feed them. I won't touch any feed until the springtime. It's pointless in feeding them now because they're dormant, so they're not going to take any nutrients. I'll use a organic type fertiliser, sudden impact for roses or something like that, and I apply that 4 times a year. So in spring, for the initial burst of new growth, then every time we tip prune and it's finished their blooms, I'll apply the fertiliser, water that well in. So it's important. They are prolific food eaters. They really love a lot of food. If your roses are looking a bit small and a bit spindly, 9 times out of 10, or because you're not feeding them enough. And also nice organic matter around them. I'm lucky I've got clay soil here. It's broken down through the humus, and we've used a bit of clay breaker. Roses love clay soil. But you can grow them in pots. I've got them in pots. You can grow them in sandy soils. A lot of customers got roses in sandy soils. Any conditions you can have them. Just understand those basic principles that I've explained. And the other thing is the timing of the year. Depending on the climatic conditions that you're in, is when you do the heavy prune. We're fortunate we can do it, any time through winter, at the start, at the end. Colder climates, frost areas, snow, all that type of stuff. Well, you've got to wait till the end of the season before you do the pruning. But that's okay once you know that. And if you're not sure, ask your nurseries. Long one today, a little bit technical. But thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you're new to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one, and get back into a bit of more heavy business stuff, I guess. But anyway, hope you enjoyed, and please like to hear your comments and share and likes. Much appreciated. Thank you.